Hi everyone, I'm Steven. Welcome to my YouTube channel. As you can probably tell, I'm a drummer. These videos are going to be about drums. And what I've got going on is planned a series of lessons around some fundamental concepts of drumming, basic things that every drummer has to learn probably at some point in their drumming life. But things you might not have revisited since those early days, things that you might not be working into your playing with other musicians or applying creatively. So I want to return to some of those concepts and see how we can apply them musically and in new and creative ways. So I thought a good place to start with that, speaking about fundamentals, would be obviously the rudiments, and one of my favorites, the humble paradiddle. So we're going to start with that today. So I've been playing the drums for a long time and familiar with the paradiddle for years before I really got into it and understood how I could use it and how it could be fun. This happened for me in 2011 when a band called the Psychic Paramount put out a record. They're like a really heavy psych rock band, and they had this record with a song on it called N6, in which the drummer, Jeff Conaway, has this monster beat. I became obsessed with it to the point that I transcribed it, sat down and wrote it all out and figured out what he was doing. And I realized that this really complicated sounding pattern that he had going was really just a paradiddle split up between the ride cymbal and the snare drum. And then what he had done beyond that was he had moved sort of the starting point for the paradiddle to be the second stroke or the right-handed stroke of a left-handed paradiddle, right? So what that sounds like in practice is this. So what's going on in the song is that he's just playing a basic paradiddle, but he's starting it off with his right hand on the cymbal or the hi-hat, right? And that right hand is the second stroke of a left-handed paradiddle. From there, it's just a loop of that, right? So really slowly as a starting point, you want to be able to play this. So once you're comfortable with that pattern and starting with the right-handed stroke of a left-handed paradiddle, you'll notice we're not quite doing all the things that we need to do to make it sound like the song we're trying to play. We need to get an accent with our left hand on the snare on beats 4 and 6. Now this song is in 6/4, the title and 6 kind of suggests that. But what's weird about that is that when we accent with our left hand on those beats, that's the left-handed stroke of a right-handed paradiddle. So we might not be used to accenting the second stroke of a paradiddle. Normally we learn to accent the first stroke, right? But it's crucial to making this sound like the song we're trying to play that we have that in our tool belt. So again, I recommend starting off slow and getting that height difference in the stick really clear. It looks and sounds something like this. So if you're already comfortable doing that, all you have to do is add in the kick drum where you hear it in the song and you're on your way. But if it needs a little work, you might want to take it back to the practice pad or your snare drum and really get used to accenting that second stroke of the paradiddle. A lot of people call that an inverted paradiddle, right? So get comfortable with that. The way that I would recommend it, on the practice pad, warm up with just your regular paradiddle where you're accenting the first stroke like this. And then try a couple rounds where you're looping the inversion, where you're accenting the second stroke, which will sound like this. So once you're a little more comfortable with that inverted paradiddle, what I recommend doing is finding ways to combine it with the regular paradiddle, mix it up, and that'll get you just even more comfortable with it, moving between the two. So one way to do that would be to play a measure of the regular paradiddle and then a measure of the inversion, which sounds like this. Another thing you could do that I really like is to alternate between the two, beat to beat. So a beat of the regular paradiddle and a beat of the inversion. And that sounds like this. What I really like about that one is that it suggests a melody or a rhythm within the rhythm that's really easy to move around the kit and come up with some really cool fill ideas, right, off of something relatively simple. So just by moving that right hand, my world is opened up, and there's a lot more I can do, like so. Right? Or sounds busier and more complicated than it really is, right? We're just going from one to the other. So after you've practiced a couple of those inversion combinations, if you want to come back to working on the beat, what I recommend is just taking the hand pattern to a single drum or your practice pad and get comfortable with that before you take it to the rest of the kit, right? So playing that original pattern on a single drum, it'll sound like this. And once you're comfortable with that, take it back to the kit, split up your hands, ride cymbal and snare, or hi-hat and snare, toss in that kick drum wherever you hear it in the song, and there you go. You can now play this song, and hopefully you're coming back to the kit with a whole bunch of ideas about how to practice your paradiddle, develop it, make it weirder, and apply it creatively to whatever kind of music you're playing. It's a lot of fun, and I really hope you enjoy it. Hope you like the lesson. Let me know what's working for you, what you're working on, what you want to see more of. I'll have more of these coming for you soon, so stay tuned. And until next time, this was Steven. Thanks for watching, and see you around.